I'm Devin Zitelman with Shear Partners, and today we are sitting with the Chief Executive Officer of Aro Therapeutics, Susan Dillon. It's great to see you, Susan. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Devin. It's great to be here with you.
You co-founded Award Biotherapeutics in 2017 with Karen O'Neill, who has served as the company's Chief Scientific Officer. Can you give us some of, some more color on your company for those that are less familiar?
Sure. So Karen and I started Aro with the vision of being able to transform genetic medicine drugs by being able to target those drugs to particular tissues. And we have focused primarily on a certain type of genetic medicine, which is called small interfering RNA, or siRNA. And the field at the time that we started the company was really just starting to emerge and has absolutely blossomed since then because of technologies that have been developed to target siRNAs to the liver. And so for diseases where there are disease-related gene targets that exist in hepatocytes, it's a phenomenal approach, and that has been demonstrated with about 7 approved drugs now and dozens in development across the whole industry. But the limitation is that technologies have not been developed yet to target these siRNA drugs, which are remarkable drugs in and of themselves, to tissue compartments other than the liver. So there is a vast number of diseases that can be addressed. And we decided that we would focus Aro on that goal. And we were able to do that because of the technology that Karen invented, which is a very specialized small protein that we can optimize for different tissues in terms of guiding that siRNA to the right place in the body.
Yeah, it's a great background. And obviously you all are on the forefront of a lot of great scientific endeavors, and a lot of practice and expertise around the table. And so, when you think about the arc of Aro Bio and really your career as a scientist in that journey, how did you get started?
Well, like most scientists, I started out by doing graduate work, and I actually got a master's at Temple University and a PhD at Thomas Jefferson. So I was real Philadelphia focused. I did a postdoc at Duke, so left, but then I came back to the area, and I've been in the area ever since. I started out at GSK as a scientist with a very small team working in vaccine research. And over the course of the years there, led a team that actually had a role in discovering a drug that is used now to treat people with thrombocytopenia. It's called Promacta. After that, I had a brief stint in California at a biotech, and then I came back to take a job at Centyrin, and that was in discovery initially, running the biology groups in discovery, and ultimately I became responsible for the immunology therapeutic area, which is discovery through development of all the different diseases that we studied in immunology. So it started at the bench and developed to being a project leader and ultimately a group leader, and then ultimately this role at Aro as the founding president and CEO of the company.
Yeah, that's some great context. And I think, for folks listening, Sue's being somewhat contrarian in terms of her review of what she's done. She's been very successful leading global immunology for J&J, and certainly has seen, a lot of what the life science and biotech industries have evolved over time. And so, one thing we'd be curious about is, what advice would you give to your younger self as specifically, thinking about it from the lens of being a woman in biotech?
Well, I guess the first piece of advice is learn as much as you can. I think as somebody with my roots at the bench, and then ultimately developed beyond that into senior management and executive leadership, I think understanding the whole train of what happens from the beginning at the bench all the way through commercialization of a drug is a critical thing. And you don't need to do all that, but you can be a part of all that and learn about the different components, not just the research and development, but the commercialization component also. And that is really part of the great experience that I had at J&J, because we worked as kind of a franchise board, if you will, in immunology. And I think that having that experience is ultimately what allowed me to, to come into this role. So just to get into your question, I think it's learn as much as you can. Don't stay in a siloed box, because, R&D, every bit of it is connected to every other bit. And believe it or not, the bench to commercialization, and then you go back to the bench with the data that you garner from having been in the clinic and having brought a drug to market and understanding how it performs out on the market and all of that. So I would say don't limit yourself. Try to get as broad of experience as possible. Find a good mentor or mentors that can really be helpful in talking about what your next career move might be. And I guess a third thing, and this is probably the most important, is don't wait. If you want to do the next thing, whether that's a promotion in your current discipline or a completely different type of a job, don't wait till you think you have to check every single box, because you don't. You don't necessarily need to do that. And the more experience that you can garner about the whole picture is ultimately building the value in yourself as a future leader.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially for those that are, early stage startups or, chief scientific officers today, thinking down the road. And obviously the pathway to commercialization is a long road. It could be upwards of 10 or 12 years. And, there's a lot of ups and downs during that process. And so I think the important part is when you're starting a company and you're thinking about the technology you're developing and the commercial applications for that down the road, you want to understand the product market fit, you understand the business side of it, but then it's also surrounding yourself with really good people, which I know Aro Therapeutics has done that. And, you continue to scale, which is also, really a testament to your leadership and your senior executive team's leadership and the technical staff. And so, last year in 2023, the macro environment for both fundraising and, IPO was light. And I think we're still kind of coming out of those tails and hopefully, some of those headwinds clear up. But you didn't raise just one fundraising round last year. You raised two multi-million-dollar rounds in otherwise a turbulent environment for biotech companies. And certainly in a time when you're witnessing more creative deal structures and companies, I think, really needing to show good science and good data, or maybe in the 2020, 2021 timeframe, it was one or the other. And obviously VC and private equity was pumping cash into those companies. But can you describe the fundraising and sort of the efforts you had to take and how you selected your partners and managed those risks when, otherwise it was sort of turbulent for other folks?
Well, it was turbulent for us too. We're part of the ecosystem, and it was it has been much more challenging in the last several years than it was, say, if we dialed back to 2020, when it was just the bar was different in terms of raising money. But I think that the other thing that is important that companies have to think about is the phase that they're at when they try to raise capital. And, there's this phrase about the valley of death, which is, it's described in different ways. But for us, I think when we raised our Series A, it's about the idea. And yes, we had a platform, we had some nice data, even in animals, and we had a product concept, and that product concept is critical. You must have that. But we really were at the very beginning of the journey. We didn't have data that supported that we could get to that product concept. Nonetheless, it's a Series A, and that is what they're about, is kind of getting to a lead, right? Well, once you get to the lead, there's a lot of work that has to go on to get into the clinic. And then once you're in the clinic, there's a lot more work, money, and time that has to happen before you have any indication of, is this molecule have legs? And So it becomes more challenging. And I think what we faced, and I'm sure what others face, is that it was very ironic because on the one hand, we had made so much progress because we had taken this product concept and reduced it to practice in a preclinical sense. We made the molecule, we optimized it, we were able to show it worked in animals, et cetera, et cetera. But we weren't in man yet. And because the market was so tough, people said, well, this is nice. We'll wait and we'll see until you've got that data. So, just keep moving that bar forward. And which is probably usually the case to some extent, but in a tough market, it really becomes profoundly challenging if you're early in any definition of early. Anyway, so those are the challenges that we faced and still face along with everybody else. And I think, how did we get to a point where we had continuous investment so that we can keep going is, simply put, we laid out milestones and we hit them. We have a fabulous team. We have a small but mighty team and very dedicated to what we're doing, which is developing a drug for a rare glycogen storage disease called Pompe disease, which is a devastating disease, insufficient treatment that's out there, and a really, I think, compelling scientific hypothesis of why our drug should make a big difference. And, that's what has allowed us to be successful in getting enough funding to continue through now these early clinical trials that we started last year.
Yeah. And obviously, a big part of the next step in the iteration of Aro Therapeutics is going to be the results. And obviously you have a few different technologies that you can leverage to support that, but actively recruiting now for clinical trials, and, really excited to see what comes out of those. And obviously, big milestones. And obviously you brought on great partners as well that had a general likeness in terms of thought process, in terms of business process. And so, we're just really excited for you and your team to continue to progress, and something for us in, the industry to watch. And so, you're in Philadelphia, your roots are in Philadelphia, having started at Thomas Jefferson University. And obviously you've been exposed to a variety of perspectives, given your roles and history. And so what does the Philadelphia community mean to you? And in particular, how have you seen it evolve?
I mean, I believe that Philadelphia is an ideal place to continue to grow the whole biotech ecosystem, which is both, R&D companies like mine, but also all of the other supportive types of companies that exist, that need to exist for the R&D to go on. I think the talent pool is excellent. So we have people that are coming out of the universities. At the same time, we have a cluster of big pharma that are very close in the area, either close by in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, that are, literally a feeder pool of experienced executives like myself and others that have started their own companies, as well as scientists coming out. And I also think that the livability of Philadelphia is a real factor. As we all know, it's extremely expensive to live and to start and run a company in the hubs that exist in Boston or on the West Coast. And I think we continue to have advantages on that front. And it's changed a lot, as you asked, in the 5 or 6 years since I've been running Aro. I think it was kind of a rarity back then to have a biotech company, and particularly a small startup company. And now it's not nearly as uncommon. There are many, and there are many all the time that I read about and meet people that are running them. So I think Philadelphia has a lot of natural things going for us, and I'm very invested in continuing to see it grow.
Yeah, equally is your partners. As you know, we have an office in Philadelphia, and we've seen the emergence of it over several years, and feel like it's one of those markets that is sort of on the verge of going from emerging to established. I mean, I think there are some risks with the rising costs of something like real estate and space rentals, and obviously the pressures that some companies get from investors to relocate. But certainly, I think the Aro Therapeutics of the world are ones that we really are proud of, frankly. And we look to see where the next Aro Therapeutics is coming from, and we're just excited to witness that growth, both from a market perspective and then from a personal perspective. But I say you and Aro Therapeutics were named as a finalist for the BioBuzz Startup of the Year Award. And BioBuzz is a great community partner, advocate. Their team is fantastic, small and mighty. What does it mean for you and for your team to be named in such a regard?
Well, my very first thought is that the credit for that really goes to the team and what we have been able to accomplish, both the scientists at the bench, the people that are involved in drug development, and our business staff that are involved in all the rest of it. I think that we work really well together, and people are very motivated, and people do a lot in small companies. They do a lot more, really, in a lot of ways than in a larger company, because the old adage that you wear many hats is true. You do wear many hats, and it's just a great recognition amongst peers, many of whom I know and respect as well. Every young company has its own journey, and when you hear about it, it's just a continual series of ups and downs, highs and lows, solving problems literally day in, day out. So it's not easy, and it is great to be recognized. And so I thank you guys, but again, the credit goes to the great team that we have at Aro.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with a great team and certainly great leadership. And so, Sue, we really appreciate you for joining us today for Sheer Partners BioBlast. It's a collaboration we're doing with BioBuzz to celebrate the finalists, and we just are really excited to see you in person, to celebrate with you and to grow with you in Philadelphia. So obviously wishing you the best of luck, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Devin.